Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth quarter podcast, the number one podcast in sports, entertainment, technology, and finance. My name is Suraj Paramanu, and I'm with my childhood best friend and co-host, Sid Balaga.
Suraj, our Fridays might have just gotten a lot better.
I know, it's because we got an amazing guest, Eric Alabest, founder and CEO of chess.com, the number one online chess platform in the world. The company has already amassed over 200 million members, hit 280 million monthly visits in last December alone, and has scaled to over 150 million in ARR. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk with you guys. I love talking with people who are passionate about chess, passionate about business, passionate about sports. You guys fit right in there, so I'm looking forward to this conversation.
It's going to be a great one. And for the audience, we're going to cover a lot of different points, but first, we want to, really get to know who you are and your background. When we were doing our research, we saw on your LinkedIn that you graduated with an English degree from BYU in 1999. We're curious, what inspired you to pick English as a major?
It was actually, some people said like, oh, it could help you get into law school. My dad was a lawyer. Communicating well is like, obviously a valuable skill in anything that you do. But the real thing was, I just wanted to get out of college. Like, I was not built for being in the classroom. I was built to build things. And, I was so anxious all the time when I was in school, just to like sitting in a room, not doing anything, listening. It's just not how I learn. I learn by doing. And it's funny. I have a 16-year-old son. We're exactly the same. My dad is the same. There's some genetic thing that's like makes it painful for us to sit and listen to people talk. But very much self-starters and builders. So I just wanted to get out of college as quickly as I could, and maybe potential go to law school or something. I did not pay attention much in class at all. I went to the minimum number of classes in college, learned everything I could, did really well on my tests. BS'd my way through every possible essay I could in the English department, and graduated with awesome grades, but was really focused on other things.
Gotcha. And so when we were looking, doing our research, we saw that you had BYU in 1999. There's a 6-year gap, right, between BYU and Stanford Business School. So I'm guessing you took probably a very entrepreneurial path between that time. I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about that experience, what you were doing before business school and before chess.com?
Yeah, so I actually got a job. Like my father-in-law was like working at some ISP startup company, and I got a job as a technical writer. And like it was kind of a pity job, I think. And then like it was also miserable. And I was actually programming like Flash games, if you even remember what Flash is. So I was like on the side hustling, doing Flash games, building stuff, learning about computers and internet technology. Meanwhile, like I would write at this job and I would finish everything so fast. And the manager guy was like, I don't have anything else for you. And it was like, it was absolute misery for me. I got fired like 6 months later. It was the hugest relief of my life, just because they were downscaling and they didn't really need me. And I was like, awesome. And then so then I was without a job, and that's where I thrive, right? Is like, your back's against the wall. You don't have any options. And I tried to go out and look for other jobs. It's just like nothing fit for me, man. Like I just couldn't see myself there. And that's not to say that jobs aren't important. They are. And you want to attach yourself. For a lot of people, just attaching yourself to an awesome company is by far the best thing you can do. For somebody like me, just going out and finding a problem and solving it was the thing that I looked for. So I went out and, I did love chess, and I had some experience while in college running chess clubs. So I went back to doing that. And then I did it at scale and got to, was teaching chess in like 100 schools across Utah, and had a, large program with, doing pretty good on revenue. Then I saw an opportunity to maybe franchise that with another company. And that kind of didn't really work out. It was like, but it got me the idea of needing chess equipment to sell to franchises, and that I was using. So then I'm like, back in this day, I'm like faxing things to China for like, can I buy chess, plastic chess pieces out of your factory? Wiring $50,000 over to China for a container load of things. Then I had all this chess equipment, and then I started an e-commerce website. And this was long before the Squarespaces and all the, big commerce and easy shopping carts. We had to build a shopping cart from scratch with,
Wow.
PHP and MySQL. And so me and my buddy Jay built this chess website. We became the largest chess retailer really quickly. And, we had the best shopping cart, the best inventory, the best marketing, the best SEO. And we just grew that. And then it was like doing well. And I was bored and I would sweep the warehouse and pack boxes and then take a nap. And I was miserable. And my wife's like, you have a good GMAT score. It's running out. Go apply one more time to business school and see what happens. And I got lucky and got into Stanford.
That's amazing. Eric, a lot of the common theme with a lot of entrepreneurs and builders is that they really didn't like school. They didn't like the corporate America and corporate structure. I'm curious, if your son wanted to drop out of school in college, would you be okay with that?
We've actually talked a lot about this. I am hopeful that we helped him find some programs that might be more tailored to somebody like him. I think schools have adapted and changed a lot over the last 20 some years since I was there. Actually, 30 some years. Gosh, I had to say that. But I think schools are more experiential, more hands-on. He wants to go into video game development. You don't sit in a classroom and have someone talk to you about video game development. It just doesn't work, right? There's also more programs now. They're like, we have some minimal generals, but you don't need to take, a year and a half of, English classes when you just want to be writing code here or, I think school's different. He also, a lot of people have a lot of maturing to do, my son included, in terms of like social interaction and living on his own and doing those things. And so I think those are important things that someone can learn in a college environment, even if it ultimately has nothing to do with their career. But those are important life skills. You meet a lot of great people. You have experiences. I literally met my wife the very first week of school, freshman year. So
Wow.
not that that's for everyone, but it worked well for me. So there's a lot to get out of college that isn't like the information you get.
Very interesting. I agree with that, actually. I agree with that sentiment. I'm curious, when you were at Stanford, you were Stanford GSB's founder of the chess club and then shut it down after 3 weeks for being the sole attendee. Can you tell us some stories about that?
I mean, okay, I have like one funny story about it. So, I mean, the story is like send out an email, hey, I'm going to do a chess club, buy some chess sets, show up in the lunch hall and have nobody show up, right? That's the story. But one really funny story about this actually is that there was a Russian guy in my class. His name was Dmitry, and he talked a big game about chess. And I'm like, great. Like, when are we going to play? And and not only that, I was like, I challenge you. We're going to play a match in the middle of the like whole Stanford, area. We're going to set up a table. We're going to wear suits. We're going to put like an American flag and a Russian flag. We're going to do like a funny match and he was like having none of it. He was just like, would not engage with me whatsoever. And I'm like, well, how can, and then I'm like, how can this guy walk around, boasting about being a great chess player? He won't even play me. Anyway, I don't know where he is these days, but I would still offer that match to him. So anyway.
Wow. He never took you up on that. That's wild. Now he gets to say
all talk, all propaganda. Russian playbook right there.
To follow up on that, Eric, to follow up on that, you also turned down several big tech job offers to pursue the chess thing. Like, how did you have the conviction to do that?
I don't know. Again, like, I don't think people should take that as like, the way to go. That was what it worked for me. But I think there's a lot of people who would have been best off in my situation taking the job at Mint Personal Finance and ending up at Intuit, taking the job at Palantir, which is now a massive company. Like, I could have been employee number 35 or whatever at Palantir, right? And that would have been, a really interesting career, a really interesting path. There would have been nothing wrong with that. I would have made, a lot of money and it would have been a really interesting ride. I just wasn't interested in someone else's vision at the time. And, I got invited to, join Facebook before they had an ad platform to kind of lead as a product manager to help build the ad platform. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound like my future. I don't know why. But the person who did that, I'm sure went on, one of my classmates from Stanford is the chief operating officer at Facebook right now. So my career could have been very different, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with attaching yourself to a great organization and growing with that. You just have to believe it's a great organization or a great opportunity for you to go for it. for me, I don't know, man. I just had this vision of like where I wanted to go with my experience and my thing. And, you know, there's a piece of advice I like to give to people about entrepreneurship, which is you shouldn't do it unless it's the only option for you, unless you cannot not do it. Then you don't have a choice. You're just doing it. And that's how it felt for me. But if you have a choice and you're thinking about it and, oh, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to just don't do it. Just like save yourself all the brain damage and emotional stress and the roller coaster and the failure possibilities. Cut all that out, go get a great job, work with great people, and be happy. Because this is not the happiest path out there. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I'm CEO of chess.com. I have a great life. Like, work just sucks sometimes, man. Like, it's HR issues, it's bullshit, it's legal stuff, it's like, you know, growing, it's pains. And then the amount of time I get to do the fun stuff, which is like working on product or, culture stuff, that's like diminishing over time. Anyway, it's not as glamorous as people think. I'll just say that.
Very interesting. Very interesting to hear that.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think, Eric, I feel like you were in a great position to go and pursue chess.com, especially because you had already done your own venture, having your own chess equipment website and, teaching chess for kids and building that platform. Curious, what were the main things that you took away from those experiences that you applied when you were building chess.com 0 to 1?
Yeah. The kids teaching business in the classroom taught me the power of stories, the power of marketing, the power of relationships, but it was really hard to scale that. It was an in-person business, boots on the ground, tough to do. You're dealing with parents, not always the easiest target. I am a parent myself. So it's hard to do that. And again, you can build a great business that way, but your scale is going to be somewhat limited. You're constantly trying to get new customers. You're working with the relationships of schools and things. And it's a great mission. And we still have a Chess Kid. I came back and did a site for kids called Chess Kid. It's targeted at that. We work with a lot of schools. We work with a lot of teachers. I love that part of our business. But being in the classroom wasn't what I wanted to do long term. But I learned a lot about through that. From the e-commerce business, I learned a lot about customer acquisition. I learned a lot about SEO. Now, SEO is like a changing tide all the time, but back in the day, it was more technical, like little tricks and things. And, it was something you could kind of be more persistent about and really work on. And it's still true today. You can do that, but it's hard. Today, you've got winner take all economics inside of SEO, which is really hard to overcome. You have AI coming into it, and now search engines by AI. You have a lot of different things. So it is changing, but I learned a lot about it back in, kind of early mid 2000s and we've carried that through. And that was really why we bought the chess.com domain, was like maximum domain authority and, easy SEO and a great brand all in one. So I learned a lot about how to operate on the web and technical side there from doing the e-commerce business. Now, holding inventory, buying equipment, shipping things, getting returns, all that stuff, like it can be a great business, but it's lower margin, harder to scale. You're constantly reacquiring customers. And meanwhile, at that time, you were seeing these new businesses pop up, which were you kind of had e-commerce online. And I'm dating myself here. This is back in the, web 1.0. You had e-commerce, and then you had like forum sites where people would, just like BB sites, they would call them, right? Bulletin boards. And you would go there with a niche community and just talk, right? It was just like a forum. Those are really interesting communities. But then a new one started too, which was like social networks, right? Friendster was big, then MySpace. And I'm like, okay, can we thread together social network, niche forums, chess equipment, maybe chess teaching? Can we like weave that together into like one cohesive platform? And the other thing is having a profile, right? Like, who are you as your identity? And MySpace was doing that for musicians, and we're like, we'll do that for chess players. And in some ways the thesis panned out, in other ways it really changed a lot from what we initially thought. But those were the things that I was thinking of when we started to do chess.com. And again, everybody looked at me and was like, chess is too small. Like, go do like a real company that can be a unicorn one day, you know, because I'm in Silicon Valley. People are like, why are you wasting your time on this, man? Like you have an MBA from Stanford. You could go get any job you want. You turn down these things, like go do something meaningful. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this. I think this will be fun. So I just went with it.
I love it. I love it. Eric, after you turned down these offers, the Palantir, Facebook, Mint, I'm curious, like what was the founding story of chess.com? Do you remember those first days where you were like scaling and actually building the website? And curious if you could shed some light there.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I had already bought the chess.com domain name right before going to Stanford. So I already had it in my pocket of like, hey, we're going to do something. And it was either a question of do a big thing with it or a full thing or just kind of do a small thing with it. So I kind of toyed around with the idea. You know, I was kind of constantly tinkering and building out this concept. And then about halfway through, you know, I'd seen all these other companies, the others jobs. Like one other thing that happened to me is I went out and sorry, I feel bad saying this, but I went and did like a 1 day like meet ride along with a bunch of other Stanford, you know, classmates who were years ahead of me, one at eBay, one at PayPal, one at, you know, HP, one at whatever. And I would like, you know, I'm supposed to show up at 9 a.m. and leave at 5. And by like lunchtime, I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, this is so boring. This is like meetings about meetings, talkings about talkings. And then what I also found is that at the lunchtime, when I'm sitting with this peer, all they wanted to talk about was what I was interested in, which was starting stuff and doing stuff. They weren't interested in their own jobs. And I'm like, is this my future? I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to go some big tech company and die here. So I feel bad because I know there are people who go there and enjoy it. And I, you know, there's great departments in there inside of different companies and, you know, and people can have really interesting roles there, but it didn't fit for me.
Eric, do you remember how much you bought the chess.com domain for?
Yeah, it was a bankruptcy auction, $56,000.
Wow.
And
Wow. Yeah.
I had money, man. I already sold 2 companies before I went to school. I sold my first company for like $250,000. I sold my second company for more than $1 million. I had money. Not only that, but this is crazy to say, but I made hundreds of thousands of dollars while I was in business school just doing side projects. I was like building domains. I was, you know, I was buying and selling domains. I was doing like helping build out mini sites. I had ad revenue coming in. I mean, I built a site. This is Web 1.0 classic. I built a site. I went on and looked at the top 100,000 search terms on the internet. Literally spent hours combing through this. And one thing stuck out to me, which was people searched for printable something all the time. Printable calendar, printable name tags, printable ruler, printable birthday card, printable this. I'm like, okay. I bought a domain name called freeprintable.com, and me and my buddy Jay in like a weekend built a site that had all these keywords into it. Then I hired some awesome people in the Philippines to create content, stick it on this site. And then about a year later, me and my buddy, we were splitting $200,000 a year of just pure income that just was like in the background of what we were doing. That's the kind of just hacky, get in there and do stuff that I did. And so I had money going into doing chess.com because I'd already scrapped together a whole bunch of money.
I love that scrappy founder story. Like that is like so cool. You can't find that anywhere else other than like us talking to you and asking you about that. Suraj, maybe we need to start doing something like that. And
I think we might have to, yeah.
yeah.
It's different. It's a little different today because the bar of quality, there's so many people doing different things. The quality bar is up. SEO has changed different things, but like there's passive income opportunities out there. It's just not quite the same as it used to be. You know, you guys are doing a little bit of the version of this, right? You're doing this now, people with newsletters and Substacks and with YouTube and podcasting. You know, you get a following in doing that, but there's still a lot of search volume out there. People look for things, people want things. Like, you got to be there to meet them. And, you know, I found some weird niche areas to be in there and capture the value.
My last follow up there, Eric, is do you remember maybe the first time you found product market fit for this new chess.com venture?
I'll tell you the time we knew we didn't have product market fit,
Okay.
which is different. We launched this site with like forums and profiles and a bunch of social tools for chess. Come in, read our news articles, write in our forums, put up your profile. And, some like hardcore kind of chess fans came in. We were getting, a couple hundred a day would sign up. I was like, hey, this is cool. And then we got on TechCrunch, and very early on, like super early. And when we got on TechCrunch, a whole bunch of people visited the site, and everyone's like, you have a chess website and you can't play chess here? And we're like, shoot. Okay, I guess we're going to build that. And then, we just went to work building that. And of course, that's what people want to do. I mean, we have 30 million chess games played every day on chess.com. That's what people are there for. They're not there to just chat about chess or just read news. They do those things. But people want to play chess. So it's just a real like smack in the face. It was super hard to do. We're like, we don't want to do that. There's already places to play, Yahoo Chess, ICC. People can play there. They can post their ratings on chess.com. But everyone's like, no, man, like we just want to play chess here. So it's like, duh. So then we went, then we built it. It was really hard to build because, back in those days, the technology was really different. You had Flash, which was even then was dying. You had Java applets on Yahoo, which were like so bad and insecure and downloads. And then you had downloadable clients. You had to go somewhere and Can you imagine in today's world having to download software on your computer? Like, how often do people do that? I mean, almost never. It sounds crazy, but you had to back then. And it was a big barrier to entry. So we were the first ones to be like, we're going to do JavaScript chessboard with a server. And it was sketchy. And we've like fumbled this for a couple of years, actually, where it was just not great. But eventually we nailed it. And now we've got servers and, got servers in Europe and India and the US and all over, and people play chess. But it wasn't an easy or obvious thing to do. And then that led to more challenges. Well, now that you have people playing chess, well, now, of course, you have people cheating in chess. And we're like, you open one can and then you got worms there. You got another can of worms inside of it. So putting online chess, then the most important thing was to protect the game. And we've talked ad nauseum about like what that's like and what we do. And we're actually much better at it than, we think, than most people think, because people always look at one data point versus all the data points, but it's something we spend a lot of time working on and enforcing. And it's a key part of what we do because you have to protect the integrity of the game. Anyway, that was a big product market like wake up for us. And then we keep finding it. We're getting better and better at this. For a long time, we were focused on kind of the higher end players. And then we started to focus on like mid-range, players and improvers. And now we're like very focused on new players, because we've already served these and this is great. And we're doing a job there and we continue to invest. But back when we started, the goal of chess.com, the mission was to serve the chess community. Well, the chess community was mostly a certain size, wasn't growing a lot. And all people in there were of a certain rating band, and we're kind of serving that. Well, over the last, especially 5 years, we've done a lot. COVID did a lot. Netflix did a lot. A lawsuit did a lot of things did a lot to grow the amount of people playing chess. Well, now we have a huge amount of people who are beginners, and how are they going to make the leap? And so we're really investing a lot in helping all the new people who are interested in chess become more interested in chess, to learn, to get, to understand the game better with virtual coaches and game reviews. So that's how we're trying to help more people land more softly into the community, and then have a nice transition, as we say, like interested in chess. I learned chess. I play chess. I'm a chess player. I'm a chess fan, right? Or I'm a chess improver. That's our life cycle of what we see. And we try to move people through this life cycle. And the more people we can convert to chess fans who love the community and the content and the memes and all that, or get them into being a trainer where they're constantly trying to improve, that's the stickiest part of the community. And so, but hey, we want tools and opportunities for everybody along that full spectrum.
I love it. We actually had a bunch of questions around all of that later in the pod, but that's great. You hit that.
Yeah, actually, that was going to be one of my like first questions up next is, kind of like chess and chess.com's role now. When me and Sid were playing chess back in the day, we were competitive chess players, also captain of our chess team. And we saw that there was almost like a decline in media attention in like the big classical games, right? When, Vishy Anand and Magnus Carlsen were, fighting for the number one spot. And so I felt like that trend happened from like 2000s and 2010s. And you hit the nail on the head there. I think COVID was huge for chess, right? Everyone was home playing, on their computer, trying to see what the next big game was to play. And obviously you have Queen's Gambit, rise of chess streaming with Botez, Hikaru, Gotham Chess. I'm curious, obviously the focus now is on these new beginning chess players. And I see it, me and Sid see it all the time. All of our close friends who would have never played chess, 15, 20 years of us telling them to play chess are now on chess.com sharing all of their games. How are you going to capitalize on this paradigm shift? Are there any like new features that you think will be, really big for this shift for them to just not only play casually, but become these chess trainers and these chess fans?
Yeah. The cultural shift is so cool. Honestly, like it's a great honor in my life to be just even some small part of that, just changing the tone. Like chess in like 2010 to pre-COVID in some ways was even earlier than that, maybe 2007 to maybe 20, maybe for the next 5 to 8 years, kind of before, Danny Wrench really got his hands in the cookie jar. He's really good at this stuff. We're going to talk about in a second. But before that, chess was boring. And Danny had a different vision for chess, not being boring. And by the way, Danny Wrench has a book coming out called Dark Squares in October. If you have any interest in chess or chess.com, go pre-order this book right now, because I actually got to read a pre release of this book, and it actually blew my mind. But the thing is that he and we together, from a product and content point of view, were very deliberate about wanting to change the game of chess. But it was hard, right? It was so static in what it was. It was like old guys in suits playing chess, really slow, boring to watch. The products were not inclusive. Anyone new to the game just got destroyed with very little help or support. Just such a painful thing to get into. The other thing is the style of chess play, because of early versions of Stockfish, got so boring. It was just like win a pawn, grind it out, slow, boring. And so much about chess just got boring. Then a bunch of things changed. Danny Wrench was like, hey, we got to make chess faster and more fun. Let's do death matches. Let's dump $1,000 in dollar bills on a table and play chess for it. Let's, dress up in a costume and do stupid skits. Let's celebrate younger players. Let's do faster events like the Speed Chess Championship. Meanwhile, on the product side, so that's like on the media side, let's do memes. And before, chess news was like, so-and-so grandmaster wins this tournament you've never heard of before. It's like, who cares, right? Then we're like, let's change the script. Instead of just celebrating only the top players, which we should continue to do, playing in events we don't know anything about, how are most people experiencing chess? They're playing games against their friends. They're blundering like crazy and losing games. Let's talk about that. So we came up with the blunder symbol and the brilliant symbol. And we just then got really relatable. That feeling when the bishop, captures your queen that you didn't see. We leaned into these like things that people could relate to rather than just the things they couldn't relate to. That was all content side. And that has been a winning playbook, along with Danny's vision for streamers. He was super early on this. Before chess got popular, he was like, hey, Hikaru, you got to you got to get your streaming career on. Hey, Levy Rosman, you're good at coaching. Why don't you get on this, why don't you get on YouTube and start doing that? Hey, Botez sisters, like, hey, don't go do this tech startup out of Stanford. Why don't you come and, become a personality in chess? Well, Danny Wrench was like single-handedly involved in all this stuff, right? So, that grew from the content side. Then on the product side, it was very intentional. At some point, we looked ourselves in the mirror and we're like, okay, you can come here and play chess. You lose your first few games because your rating is completely just, not calibrated. Then you can go play against bots, play the computer, and computer is like computer level 1, computer level 2, computer level 3. So we looked at all this and we're like, this is boring. Like, this is not good. Let's retool everything. So since then, We have tried to make play more fun. Right now, we're experimenting with like, you get to see your opponent's board and pieces and their theme before you play. We're trying to make it more fun and celebrating. We tried leagues, didn't quite work out. We're going to retool it. Then we're okay. So that's on the play side. Then we went to the bots, and instead of playing computers level 1 to 25, we're like, let's make like 100 personalities, and they have pictures and they all say stuff, and you know, they have different playing styles. So we retooled bots to be completely different and have all these personalities. Now, Mittens went on to be our biggest success. Mittens literally like jumped, you know, into mainstream. It was absolutely crazy. And so we're constantly now, Martin's like the whole thing. Like everyone's like knows who Martin is, right? It's like this crazy bot guy. So we've really created characters and personality and fun, and that's a lot more interesting to new people and for everybody. We took our puzzles product, instead of it being like, here's a chess puzzle, you got it wrong. Here's another chess puzzle, you got it wrong. It's like, okay, so then we started Puzzle Rush, where you all get the easy ones and then it gets harder, right? And people like that. And then we built on that with our new puzzles, where there's like a path and you're trying to weave your way up and you get points and you get these celebrations and you got 3 puzzles right in a row. So we're gamifying, we're bringing the fun. And the next big thing, then we did game review, which was huge. You play a game, you click game review, but game review wasn't just like, here's a move, good or bad. It was like, we showed you a graph of how the chart went. We developed an accuracy score so you could get a relative grade. We then gave you brilliance and we gave you blunders and we showed you all those different things. And then we added coach that could explain the stuff. And this is a very hard problem to solve, but like, you know, coach can now say, hey, that was a good move because of this and that, or that was a bad move because of this and that. And we're getting way better at that. The next iterations of coach is coming to puzzles, coach is getting redone in lessons, coach is there to play against in a more supportive way rather than just bots. And then the fun thing is like all the cool celebrity coaches coming. So very soon on chess.com, your coach in game review could be Magnus Carlsen. It could be the Botez sisters. It could be Levy Rosman. And it will not only explain stuff to you, it will explain it how they explain it, and you will hear it in their voice cloned by AI. And so this is all coming. And the one I'm excited about is Coach Ben Feingold. He is what we're calling the jerk coach. And he is going to make fun of you, and he's going to say things to you that make you feel bad and make you laugh at the same time. So we're going to have tons of different personalities. We're using AI heavily in the generation of all of this stuff. It's not AI powered because the token cost and the latency isn't there, but it will be more when AI, you know, when models are more on your phone and ready to do that. We're still a ways away from like real-time AI, you know, in some ways, but and also AI is so bad. Like, LLMs are so bad at chess. It's like, it's not even crazy. It's not even so. Anyway, you asked about products, what we've done to bring the game. These are all the fun things I'm excited about. I think you can tell I'm pretty excited about it. And this stuff is all hitting like, you know, this year. This year, the chess.com product is gonna blow minds.
That's awesome. Excited. I'm pumped. Yeah, Sid, we gotta run some chess games and practice with Magnus Carlsen. I actually, maybe Ben Feingold for me. That was my original, like, go on YouTube if I want to see an awesome game and see someone break it down with like the whole classroom setting as well. It's Ben Feingold. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep. Eric, I was gonna ask a question of like, when I was growing up, there were hundreds of platforms to play chess online, like ChessBase, ChessCube, Lichess. Then just hearing you riff on product and product vision, how chess.com has just been iterating like crazy. It became obvious, kind of that question answered itself of how chess.com became the ubiquitous platform for online chess. But I'm curious, like kind of shifting away from product and to the other side of the founder token, can you tell us about how you went and raised funding for chess.com?
Sure. I had money, as I said, right? Because I had sold some other companies. I was making money. I was, you know, scrappy about this stuff. But we did need to pay people. And, you know, Jay and I, my co-founder Jay, you know, we were friends since first week of college, freshman year. We stayed friends, and he helped me with the e-commerce business, and then he went on to be my co-founder at Chess. Two of us could work for free for a very long time, right? Like, he had money, I had money, he still had a job, we were working nights. You can do that for a while, but 2 people can only go so fast. So then like, great, well, you can pay your buddy $1,000 to set up a server for you. Sure. But like eventually you start to succeed. Okay, you need more engineers. Okay, now you need some customer support. Now you need people who can do engineering you don't know. Eventually you do need money to do a business. And I was funding all of that stuff out of pocket. And then it was like, we need to keep growing. We need to hire. I think at some point overall, I put in more than $700,000 of my own money early on.
Wow.
That's a lot of conviction. You know, when you're in your early 20s or mid 20s to do something. We borrowed $60,000 from my friend's mom, which we paid back over 3 years as like just a loan. But we then went and tried to raise money. Like, I'm like, okay, I went to Stanford, I can raise money. And like, people were like, this is way too small. Like, why are you spending your time on it? Or people were like, sure, I'll give you like $100,000 for like 50% of this because it's going to be so small. And I was like, no, thanks. Every VC told me it was silly. You know, lots of friends told me, lots of classmates said, don't do this. So we weren't able to raise money. So I put money in, and then we started charging memberships pretty early on, like in 2008, like less than 2 years after we launched, because we built a product for like online learning. And pretty quickly after that, we actually saw a lot of signups and we became profitable and self-sustaining. So then we'd get more subscribers and we're like, hey, I think we can hire another person. And then get more subscribers. Hey, I think we can hire another person. Get more subscribers. Is it ready to pay ourselves? Nope. Let's just hire someone else instead. So I went years without making money at Chess Talk, like years.
Wow.
My wife is amazing. She's just like, hey, like, I'm sure this will work out. We've got enough money in the bank. Like, you know, bless her heart. She has a great vision for supporting. So anyway, we did become profitable, and then eventually we just like never raised money. But we did take on an investor who was like, I want to invest. And we're like, no, I want to invest. And we're like, well, now we don't need you. Investors are like, no, when we're, and then they're like, yeah, we want in once we don't need you. Like, what is going on? So we rebuffed this person for a long time, but he was like a 2000 rated player. He's like, I'd love to invest, great. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I live in the Bay Area. At some point I want to have a house. Like, okay, we'll let this guy in. And he bought in like, a very small amount. He's like, I'll be invested forever. About 3 years go by and he's like, hey, I got to get out. And we're like, what? You said you were invested forever. He's like, don't worry, I found another buyer. And this guy was like, billionaire, founder of Poker Stars, like loved chess, deep in his, his dad was like an Olympian chess player. And like, and he's like, I want to buy all the company. We're like, no. He's like, I want to buy half the company. We're like, no. And he's like, well, I want to buy this much. We're like, all right, it's not a bad idea to take a little money off the table, but like he wasn't investing in and diluting. He was just buying founder shares, right? So we let him, he bought out the other guy. He came in and we're like, oh, this is great. This is our last investor for life. Like this guy's a billionaire. He doesn't need the money. And like, he loves chess. Like we're done. 3 years later, he's like, hey, I got to get out. We're like, what? Like you said you were going to be here forever. Like investors they tell you what you want to hear. So then we went on the whole roadshow, and now we were so big that his stake was worth a lot. And wasn't like you could just go trade this out for any private individual. So I met with all the private equity companies and VCs and all this stuff. And a lot of passes on their end. They're like, chess is too big. You guys had a fluke with the Queen's Gambit. It's never coming back. Your business is not going to track well in the future. This is not investable for us. Then we found a couple that were like, all right, let's have conversations. But I really just didn't like any of the investors I talked to. In some ways, I didn't respect their thought processes. I didn't think that they were, it was all about the returns for them. It wasn't about the mission or about what we were trying to do or how we were trying to do it. It just didn't connect for me. I don't know. It felt transactional. Some of them were actually complete assholes, like to deal with. Then I met General Atlantic. And, Tanzine, who's there, and he's kind of our main partner there. And it was different. He either liked chess or got to like chess, and we still talk about chess. He likes it. He had a different demeanor about him. He said the things that made me feel like he was, supportive of the mission and the things. And, I'll report now that 3 years on, we have a great relationship, and we have some friction, a little bit of push and pull, but like it's actually been awesome. And they've actually helped us grow in terms of like organizational maturity and discipline and a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have done on our own. So we've learned a lot. Now, this story hasn't ended. It might be that in 1 to 2 years, they're like, hey, we got to get out, and then we got to find the next thing. Hopefully go public, because I think that puts chess in the hands of people who believe in it and the mission. So that's kind of my personal goal, though I'm not sure I actually want to be a public company CEO, but that would be a great exit. And hopefully, General Atlantic and chess.com will have a great relationship all the way through the exit, and it will stay really positive. So that's what I've seen.
I love it. When you first started, you had a bunch of rejection, obviously, as you just said, Eric, but for prospective and ambitious people that want to go be founders, maybe in the sports tech or gaming space, what advice do you have about dealing with rejection?
Rejection is just another person's lack of understanding. Like, why would that reflect on me?
I love it. And
I understand. I have come to understand later in life that I have, through nurture, through nature, I have a level of resilience or self-belief or lack of fear of failure that is unusual. And I understand that. And I understand my privilege, right? I have a lot of privileges. I'm a white guy who grew up in an upper class neighborhood, and I've had very little, headwinds for me. But one of the things is just whatever the personality factors are, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of disagreeing. I'm not afraid of someone telling me I'm wrong. I'm not afraid of thinking I'm right and then being wrong later. I'm not afraid of those things, because how else can you learn, right? How can you play chess without knowing you're going to lose 50% of your games? And if you don't learn from those losses, right? How can you learn anything? How can you, anything you want to do, whether it's learn to play hockey or golf or anything, start a business. Failure is like inherent to the process. So whatever it is that made me unafraid of that has made me be able to go out and meet with very powerful, wealthy, successful people who tell me my ideas are stupid, and then walk out of the meeting and being like, that guy doesn't get it. I don't know why, but I can do that.
That's incredible. I'm trying to hone that skill. Maybe I need to ask you about some pointers, Eric.
Eric, I feel like you're always like one step ahead of us. Me and Sid have all these questions, and you just hit on that next point that we're about to ask. And so I want to touch on this, the whole idea of, obviously, with funding, the dream is going public. I'm curious, is there any boxes that chess.com needs to check, any metrics that you would like to hit before you take the company public and take on a very daring mission like that?
Yes, there's a lot of boxes. Our legal and finance team has a long list of things we have to do, but that's operational stuff aside. We probably need to steel ourselves a little bit for what that's like. Today Duolingo posted record results with, all these different positive metrics, and their stock is down 16%, right? And it's like, because their AI costs were higher than expected. Like, the public markets punish you every single day for irrational things. Who knows? Again, I'm not sure I can stomach that. I'm a bit more of a private person. I'm a bit more of a, like, I don't care. Maybe if we go public and just, I've heard the advice of, like, there's different types of public companies. Some just say, we don't say much, do what you want. Like, we don't invest, we don't engage with our investor set. We have like so there's different ways to posture in the public markets. There might be one that fits me, there might not. But one of the most important things that we think, and this is completely fair feedback, is it's very hard for a company to go public that doesn't have a clear growth story for a long-term growth. Chess.com's history of growth is an absolutely crazy chart, right? Very slow growth for 15 years. Not slow. In a normal business, it would be great, but comparatively, slow growth for 15 years, crazy growth for COVID and Queen's Gambit, then a dip, then a crazier growth for 2023 when we got sued by Hans Niemann for $100 million, and people were talking about crazy stuff in the news, and the Mittens bot and short form, YouTube algorithms pushing every kid in high school to download chess.com. Huge spike. Then it came down. And now we're in this next crazy boom. And like, we're like, okay, like, so that to an investor is this very scary story. If you're already an investor, it's a cool story. If you're looking to invest, that's a scary story. You don't know. When is it going to come down? So the story that we have to work on next is predictable funnel, right? Predictable top of funnel, predictable funnel driving of excellence. Can we increase our efficiencies on this? Can we do product-led growth? Can we change our new user retention rate at day 7 from, X to X plus 3? And can we show that we can do that through data and testing and product-led growth that actually moves people from the top of the funnel down to the subscription end of the funnel by being great at product, by being great at data and great at design and great at user experience? Can you grow your business that way? Not just, oh my gosh, we got so lucky, like a ton of people just got into chess and we have no idea how, right? You have to be able to predict that and do that. And we haven't shown that yet. We are showing it in the last 6 months. We've done some very small things that have changed our business metrics fundamentally. Small things. Make this one button that was gray, make it green. Wow, now our business is 5% better. Change this language here from this to that. Wow, we just grew our business 3%. That stuff's crazy. Frankly, I'm surprised by it. It says a lot about human psychology, and, it's not as fun to me as like, oh my gosh, we're revolutionizing teaching chess with an AI coach. That's what's fun for me, not button colors. But I actually recognize that this is a really important part of both fueling our mission with revenue so we can do the things we want and showing other people that we can move all of the metrics. Because if someone joins chess.com, and if at the end of 30 days, if our retention rate is 12% versus 20%, that's a material difference in how many people are enjoying chess in the future. So I do get very excited about that.
Eric, while we're on the subject of finances, in August of 2022, chess.com did a $80 million deal with Magnus Carlsen's company, Play Magnus Group. I'm curious, why did you do that deal?
It's a good question. It's a fair question. I'm hesitating because in hindsight, sometimes we're not sure we should have. It was not a great financial investment in some ways. That said, we got some great team members on our team who are super passionate about chess. And who are with us today, just absolutely executing on a lot of this vision. We got a courses business through Chessable where there's a lot of learners. And then we united the online chess events business. They had theirs going with the Champions Tour and we had ours. But when Magnus Carlsen isn't playing in your chess events, do your chess events matter? Right? Hikaru's amazing. He's tops, but if Hikaru and Magnus aren't playing each other, like what are you watching, right? And I know there's a lot of other players, but you got to have the GOAT in there. So we saw the assets of some of the things that they had with the courses. We saw the Magnus Carlsen. Also, like, I think this is totally fine and fair to say, but like the chess world fighting against itself versus fighting for its place in the world together is actually different, materially different. And once we kind of united some of the commercial forces inside the game, like we now turned our attention toward growing rather than just like, some was negativity. There was like, building same features, right? You have engineers building same features. Like, okay, let's just not build the same stuff. Let's just build it once, right? So it helped unite that. And so in terms of uniting the community a little bit, there's still multiple communities online. Chess.com is not everybody's favorite chess website. There's still market share out there. There's thousands of apps in the App Store. There's still other places people go and play chess. That's great. But in terms of what we were seeing on the mainstream with top players and top events and the most games being played and all of that, like it helped unite that and help us move forward. I think, there were 13 different entities inside of that company that they cobbled together for a certain amount of revenue to be a public company. They were buying companies and doing things. And I don't blame them. That was the strategy they had to have because chess.com is just like Goliath compared to them. So they were trying to get all the other pieces to align to create value. once we bought it and picked that apart a little bit more, I mean, the tangible dollar asset value of those assets was a fraction of what we paid. And so it sometimes gives us a little bit of heartburn about that. There's other dynamics that made up for it. So I'm still glad we did it. I would have done it, but if you just put it into a spreadsheet only and you're like, was this a great investment? You know, it's not clear that it was.
I didn't know how you were going to answer that, but that was a great answer. Uniting the chess community. That's a great answer.
I have a follow up on that. You know, when it comes to Magnus playing in some of these tournaments, how do you see the chess landscape when a guy like Magnus or Hikaru, retire and they're not playing competitively anymore? Is that going to be a big hit on the chess community? Do you think there's going to be some big grandmasters like a Gukesh come in and fill that spot and fill that void?
It's unclear. We're hopeful, but it's not clear. The generation of chess players that is currently on top, even the chess players themselves talk about the generations, right? The Magnus, the Hikaru, the Wesley So, the Anish Giris, the Fabiano, and I know I'm leaving someone out. I apologize. MVL. That cohort of players just has dominated for so long. Anand and Kasparov and others passed on the torch, and those guys have dominated. And there's been a ton of young up-and-comers, and there's some that are kind of in there teasing around. Firouzja got distracted with like a fashion line and all these different other things he was doing. He didn't stay focused on the game a little bit. And now we've got Gukesh, world champion, but is he really world champion because Magnus didn't play? And then Dingley Ren with like his mental health issues and other things. And there's some great players. There's some great chess being played. But in terms of like a transcendent personality that goes outside of the game itself and unites people and can be a fashion model and a celebrity personality, or do what Hikaru does, which is like unite all the online fans to come and watch his, brain just like do the things he does. We haven't quite seen that yet. And so there are some question marks around what's the next generation. That said, there's a lot of awesome creators in there that are holding up that economy and that type of thing. So the creator economy is going to be great. There's that I'm not worried about. When Hikaru retires and he tells me every single month he's ready to retire, he's not. When he retires, the chess world will lose something very special. Like that level, the number 2 or sometimes number 1 player in certain formats, like that person willing to get on and grind Twitch for hours and hours and give you insights, when that's gone, that will be a huge loss. And when Magnus retires, it will be a huge loss. Who's going to show up to the World Blitz Championship 3 minutes late with a minute left on his clock and, win game? I don't know who's going to do that. Who's going to wear jeans and get in fights with FIDE about it and then auction his jeans off? Like no one else is going to, we don't have that coming up. So there are a lot of great players. There are some great personalities. We're hopeful that more of them will emerge and that the top chess players coming up will understand that it's not the chess moves that matter. It's not. It's their personalities. It's their stories. It's who they are. People don't follow Formula One because of a driver that has a helmet on that they never see or never hear from. They want to know the personality. They want to know what that person thinks. They want to hear them talk. They want that out there. They want the rivalries. They want the stories. And so it's kind of up to the next generation of top chess players to decide, is chess going back to where it was professionally in 2010? Or are we going to where Formula One is? It's kind of up to them.
Yeah, Eric, that actually is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And there's one event that I really love, and it's led by Magnus Carlsen, Freestyle Chess, which just happened, I think, a few weeks ago in Germany. I think this is huge for the chess community. One, and me and Sid were talking about this. It's very media focused. They have a great Instagram. I follow it, where you kind of get the personality of all these players. You bring in the creator economy chess creators like the Botez sisters to participate as well. And it's cool, fast paced, and it's not traditional chess, right? There's a chess 960 component. And for the audience who doesn't know what chess 960 is, it's essentially chess rules, but the board is set up in an unusual way, which makes things a lot more unpredictable. I know that chess.com has a collaboration or a partnership with Freestyle Chess. I'm curious what that looks like. What do you think Freestyle Chess could could be in the future and how that could help in regards to someone like a Magnus or a Carr or a Wesley Slow, retire and provide a platform for the new up and coming chess players?
Yeah, this is a great question. This is a controversial topic in the chess community, right? There's people who are like, new chess, get out of here. Like, FIDE owns chess, bring back the world championship. Let's just focus on classical chess. This other stuff doesn't matter. There's just some people who feel that way. There's other people who are like, we like new chess, speed chess championship, freestyle chess. It's a lot of debate about this. And the problem is, like, no one owns chess. Like, FIDE doesn't own the game of chess. They can claim they own certain contracts with players around terms and things. That's great. But FIDE, my personal opinion is like, and we tried to buy the rights from FIDE to help it mature into into the future. Like, hey, you guys keep the name. We'll work it out economically. But the game of chess fundamentally as a spectator sport has to change. It has to change, or you will become irrelevant, and the game of chess will become irrelevant. So it's self-serving for us to want to do this to keep chess relevant. You can't have 7-hour chess games played in formats that don't make sense to anybody. It's just not watchable. It's not TVable. It's not sponsorable. It's not interesting. They have declined that. And so what has filled in the void is a bunch of people who are trying to elevate the game and change it. Freestyle is one of those. Chess.com has, with our Speed Chess Championship, we've been doing that. Freestyle is interesting because Magnus is very passionate about the Freestyle Chess 960. Jan Buettner, who runs Freestyle, is very passionate about just shaking everything up, doing it new ways. Let's put people in sexy, awesome outfits at great locations with different storytelling. So I'm a huge believer that the future of chess is going to look faster, more fun, more sexy, more storytelling, like all of those things. Now, if let's just say FIDE's here, I think freestyle was a big step forward. I think there's still a lot more to go. The quality, and we've shared this feedback with them, so I'm not saying anything new, but like the quality of broadcasts that they're being done is happening is not up to par. The events are still too long. Chess 960 is a great format, but inherently it's still classical chess and slow. In the first 10 minutes, so little happens. Like, if you're new to chess, like it's almost unwatchable. Even for me, like, freestyle chess only gets interesting like at the back half of the show. So I think there's still a ton of room to grow there. I'm hopeful that it will. Chess.com's contribution in this is to be a partner to freestyle, to be a partner to the Global Chess League, to be a partner to FIDE, and if we can make those things work out, to be to then do our own events with the Speed Chess Championship, and then to be a platform to share all of that. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're investing millions of dollars into producing a Drive to Survive for chess. It's being filmed right now. It is, there are camera crews following people all around the world, doing interviews at Freestyle Chess, at FIDE events, trying to get Hans Niemann on the phone so he'll do interviews, but maybe he will, maybe he won't. He's off in Russia right now playing a match. So we're trying to bring all the crazy stories and characters together to really show how exciting this world of chess is. And I think if anything has a chance of humanizing, of bringing spectatorness and storylines back to chess and getting these young players to open up and see how ready the world is to learn about them, I think it's this project. This project will launch later this year, and I'm very excited about it.
Netflix, awesome. You got it. If you're listening, Netflix has to grab these rights. I mean, this sounds awesome. I think there's been some really, really cool storylines that just like don't get in the mainstream media, but every chess fan knows about it. So that's a great idea.
Eric, we have the last few questions here. I know we're coming up on time and they're kind of rapid fire, but I want to hear your thoughts. You're known to angel invest in companies. Would love to hear what you look for in founders when you're looking to invest.
Okay, let's back up. I'm not known for angel investing in companies. I will say that because I get a lot of people who pitch me and I do not have the time. I'm actually not a professional investor. Do not send me your pitch deck. I do not do this. I only know certain markets, consumer side of internet. I don't know how to invest in an e-commerce business. I don't know how to invest in this other business. I don't know how to invest in a B2B software or SaaS business. I don't know how to do these things. And so there's very few angel investments I've actually done. It's almost exclusively with people that I really know or really trust. Someone else vets these things for me and then is like, hey, do you want to do this investment? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? And they're like, I'm in for this amount of money. And I'm like, well, you're not an idiot, so I will put in some money with you. So that's how I invest. I've done very few. Now, I'm in a couple of venture funds that also do investments, and sometimes I give them some thoughts and insights from things that I see and know, but I do not do very much direct angel investing at this time.
Got it. Completely understood. Very interesting.
So Eric, we talked a lot about chess.com, but we also want to know about your chess preferences. I mean, I actually saw I looked you up on the old USCF rating, and you're basically around me and Sid's like level of chess playing, 1600, where we play competitive chess. I wouldn't say we were like grandmasters or national masters, but we were out in those tournaments still trying to win games. So I wanted to ask you some rapid fire questions just about your preferences and how you engage in the game of chess. All right. Yeah. So one, what are your go-to openings with white and black?
I play anything where I can fianchetto my kingside bishop. So I'll play, basically, I play e4, and then a lot of times my second move is d3, and then my knight will go to d2 to protect the pawn. I will fianchetto with g3 and bishop g2. I will castle, and then I will go from there. And I do the same thing as black. I play the Pierce, the Modern. I play the King's Indian defense. Anything that plays g6, bishop g7, and lets me castle and get a game. That's how I play. I don't want to learn openings. I don't want to know openings. I just want systems that feel familiar to me. I play the closed Sicilian. I don't play the open Sicilian because it feels familiar to me. Anything with kingside fianchetto, that is my go-to.
Yeah, Sid's a Sicilian guy, so whenever we play, I'm like, oh, I know he's about to do the Sicilian. I'm more e4 and I play e5. Like that's my. Okay. I'm more responsive. There you go. Reactive. Blitz, bullet, or classical? Which one do you like the most?
I actually like all of these for different reasons. I will say some of my favorite crazy days were actually playing classical chess, where you can sit down at a chessboard at 9 in the morning and then suddenly it's 3 p.m. and you feel like, it's been 10 minutes long, but it's actually been 6 because you're so lost in the game. I miss that. I enjoy playing blitz over the board, not blitz online as much. And then I just love online bullet, 1+1, super fun. Just a great way to, keep your ego in check for the day.
Which chess legend did you look up to and model your game off of?
I never really felt like good enough to model my game after someone. I grew up in the 90s, late 90s into chess. And so, Kasparov and Anand and, Kramnik before he went crazy. I liked seeing their games and watching what they did. And so I didn't have one particular player that I tried to be like, if that's certain. But once I became Hikaru's #1 fan when he started to play on chess.com. I'm like, one of the best players, at that time, I think one of the best players in the world is coming and playing chess on chess.com. Well, I'm a Hikaru fan for life. So.
Gotcha. Obviously you met, all the top chess players that are playing now, but if there's one chess legend that you can meet, dead or alive, who would it be?
I'll tell you, I have two really quick funny stories on this. I had a chance to meet Garry Kasparov at an event in Silicon Valley. He came to speak, and I was so excited. I'm like, I'm into chess. I own chess.com. Like, I got to meet Garry Kasparov. And I got in line at this event. It was actually an evening event at a Palantir. They had him come in and speak. And it's very funny because for Halloween that year, I had dyed my hair orange to be like the character Syndrome from Incredibles, and I had a whole family costume thing going. So here I show up with like crazy orange hair, and I'm standing in line. And as I go to shake Garry Kasparov's hand, someone jumps in front of me and starts shaking Gary's hand, and I'm like, "Hey, I was in line next." And so in front of Gary, like, I have this like awkward thing happen, and then I kind of like shake his hand, and I'm like, this is so embarrassing. And so I think Garry Kasparov would never remember that, but it was like the most awkward meeting ever, and it was so regrettable, and I lived in the awkwardness of that moment. And that was my most awkward chess meeting until the first time I met Magnus Carlsen at an event, and Danny introduced me to him, and he did the handshake, like look away eye roll as he shook my hand. And I was like, That is fascinating that he would go to shake my hand and then kind of like eye roll the same. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he's just tired of meeting people, but my two first experiences meeting chess legends were so awkward. So I'm happy to share those stories with you.
That's hilarious. Absolute last question for you, Eric, and then we'll let you go. So Siraj and I are young, ambitious people. You have them in your life as well and around you. But what advice do you have for young, ambitious people, regardless of whether they're in college, if they're in a job, or just trying to figure stuff out?
Two things. One is you will suffer in your life. And in some ways, you can choose your suffering or your suffering can be chosen for you. But you will suffer and you cannot escape that. And so it's better to choose your suffering than to have it put on you. I choose to suffer every day in the gym because I would rather do that than suffer what happens to people like me getting close to age 50 with the natural body. I want to, I want to fight that off. So I choose my suffering as much as I can. I choose hard conversations early on so that I don't have to suffer from things building up. But you have to pay the price sometime. So pay the price, do the suffering up front. The other thing is your life is really just the accumulation of each individual day. So take your average day and multiply it by 10,000, and that's your life. Did you spend your day drinking sodas, eating shit, spending time on social media? Multiply that day by 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. That is your life. That is who you are. Did you spend that time exercising, investing in your friendships, eating well, and learning new things? Well, now multiply that by 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, and then that's your life. So I think those are the two things that, I learned. In some ways, I learned them later in life sometimes. Some of it I've always known and believed in and done because I had great parents and great models who did these things. But I think there's too many people who just kind of take it a little bit too casually, too easy, and don't do hard things, make decisions they know aren't good for them, but they do it anyway. And then they end up with regrets or suffering or, consequences later on. You can't avoid that stuff. So that's like an old man, almost 50, giving advice to you guys. So you asked, that's what I think.
I did ask. I love it. Siraj, I just know that clip is going to do numbers on TikTok. That's going to be a great
100%.
Eric, I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us. This was one of my favorite combos. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you guys letting me walk down memory lane, talk about all this stuff. I'm very passionate about chess, passionate about, being your best self. I love talking with people like you who have great questions and who can dive in. And thanks for letting me be a part of this.